These weeds are taking over everywhere. Oh, if you guys live in South Florida like me, or anywhere, or Central Florida like I do now, I can tell you there are weeds everywhere, especially when you're trying to be an organic gardener. But I can tell you, before you throw away this weed, let me tell you all about this phenomenal plant called cersei or bitter gourd or bitter melon, and it has a ton of nutritional benefits, not just to our bodies but to our gardens. It does wonders for the gardens. So guys, let's get started. I'm going to tell you all about the cersei and how to use it as three different ways to use it as teas, also how you can use it as compost, and also how you can use it as compost tea. So let's get started. Today we're going to talk about bitter melon, bitter gourd, or as we say in Jamaica, Cerasee. All throughout my garden, Cerasee has basically taken over. Most people see this growing along fences, they see it growing along plants, and it's really can become a nuisance plant. But then this Cerasee is a highly medicinal plant. It's used for a ton of different ailments throughout Jamaica. Most of us who grew up in the islands, we know that every summer, at the end of every summer, our parents give us what we call a washout, which basically means they make us drink this to get rid of all the toxins and all that extra food that we eat over the summer. It basically cleans us out. Cersei has a little pod on it. Let me see if I can find a pod. Here's one. Cersei grows these little pods on it, and some people eat them green. But when they ripen, they turn yellow, and then there's some yellow seeds in it. The seeds can be sucked off. I remember as a child, I grew up sucking the seeds off and spitting them out. But anyway, I'm gonna be harvesting the Cersei here. Some of it I'm gonna make a compost tea with, because all that nutrients will go into the tea and of course feed my plants. And then most of it I'm gonna be drying so I can make my Cersei tea. I'm gonna dry it, powder it, and then keep it in the house so I can have my Cersei tea whenever I want it. So let's get started. Whew, that was a good 10 minutes of work, but guys, look at how much Cersei I have. I have enough to fill like a black trash bag full of Cersei. And if you don't want this to spring up, oh my gosh, guys, I lost my bangle. I lost my bracelet. If you don't want this to spring up in like 10 minutes, because this springs up in no time, make sure you pick up all the seed pods. This is what the seed pod looks like. And each of these are seeds, and these are what gives you the Cersei plant. So if you don't want this to spring right back up, make sure you go through and pick up all the little suckers and pick up all the seed pods. Alright, so I'm going to go in now. The leaves that are yellow in, I'm probably going to put those in my compost bin. Actually, I'm going to make a liquid fertilizer with this. My plants haven't had a good drink in a while, so I'm going to make a liquid fertilizer with all the roots. And then I'm going to harvest all the healthy leaves and vines, and I'm going to rinse those well and then dry them, and then we're going to make us some dried Cersei. We're going to dry the Cersei, and we're going to make some Cersei tea. Cersei tea can also be made from green Cersei, of course. So I'm going to probably make some fresh, but I'm going to show you how to dry it and how to use it. I'm also going to put a link below to an excellent website I found recently. It's called Earth's Medicine, and she has a phenomenal video on Cersei. So I'll stick some of the benefits on the screen, but I would highly encourage you guys to go and watch her video, Earth's Medicine. She is located in Jamaica, and she shows us how to not just make cersei tea, but she has like every kind of medicinal herb and plant that you can make teas out of. Even some of the common plants and common fruit trees that you have, she shows you how to make medicinal teas out of them. Anyway, for now, let's go get started on this cersei. All right, so I put most of it in the compost pile. Actually, in a large bin, I'm going to use part for compost and part for compost tea. And for the rest of it now, make sure you start off with a very clean sink. Either wash it out with your soap and water, or wash it down with vinegar and water, however you decide to sterilize your sink, but make sure your sink is clean. This is food, so you want to make sure it's clean. Then you're going to thoroughly wash it. You're going to thoroughly wash it on jet stream. If you have a faucet that does a jet stream, make sure you thoroughly wash it. You're going to look for any grass that's on here. You're going to remove the roots, any mulch that might be stuck to it, any yellowing leaves like that, remove it. You're going to check for lizards, because believe me, baby lizards hide everywhere. So check for lizards, check for bugs, check for white flies, check for any kind of disease leaves. So I'm going to put the phone down. I'm thoroughly washing this, and then I'll come back and show you what it looks like. Alright, and here it is, all cleaned up. It's thoroughly washed. I washed it several times. Checked under all the leaves. Oops, here I missed a little piece of mulch. And here is what's left behind. There's more cersei in here that I could pick through, but it's really not necessary for me. I have so much that this is more than enough for what I'm going to do today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make some cersei tea with the green leaves, and I'm also going to dry the remainder of the leaves, and then I'm going to for the discards and for the rest of the cersei that I picked, I'm going to put some in the compost pile, and I'm also going to show you how I make my compost tea. Compost tea is amazing for the garden. You make it steep for a few weeks, and then you use it, you dilute it with water, and you use it to fertilize the leaves of your veggies and your plants, and that just makes them so much stronger. And cersei is so packed with nutrients. All those nutrients are sucked out into the tea and fed right back into the leaves of the plant. So you can't get more organic than that, and you definitely cannot get any freer than that for fertilizer, especially in the times that we're in with the war in Ukraine, and fertilizers, there's really a huge shortage on fertilizers, and they're only going to get more and more expensive. So we have to learn how to maintain our gardens. We have to learn how to be able to feed our gardens without being dependent on big agriculture. Anyway, enough of that. Let's go get started with our teas. Before I go any further, I wanted to show you what to look for to be able to properly identify cersei. So first, it gives it a little flower. This is what the flower looks like, and you'll see the little tiny cersei pod right behind the flower. As the pod develops, and it will usually develop within a few days, you'll see this pod. This is called the bitter melon, right? If you don't see this growing on it, it's not cersei. You don't want to mix up and eat poison ivy or some other crazy vine that's out there. You want to make sure that you get the right thing. You're getting the actual cersei. As I said, it's a very powerful medicinal. It's used for blood pressure, to lower blood sugar. It's used as a detox. You can boil the leaves and use it on, like if you have psoriasis or eczema. But it can be used in excess. I've read articles out there that says that you shouldn't drink it more than just a few days. You can drink it a few times a year. You shouldn't drink it more than like a week at a time, because it can actually cause liver damage. So just because something is natural doesn't mean you can use it in excess. You have to do your own research. I'm not giving any medical advice. I'm not a doctor. I'm just drinking something that I grew up with as a child. My mom would make it once or twice a year and give it to me. So do your own research before using this, but I want to make sure you recognize this is what the pot looks like. This is a cersei pot. I'm gonna show you how to boil it fresh, and then we're gonna I also have the ones that I picked from yesterday. I have that in the oven on the dehydrate mode. My oven actually has a dehydrate mode, so I'm dehydrating it at 150 degrees. It says it should dehydrate within 2 hours, so I'm gonna collect and dehydrate a whole lot of cersei. I almost regret the first set of cersei that I picked. I ended up using it as compost, but I actually had like a black trash bag full, and I could have just dehydrated it and put them in jars so that I can have cersei even during the winter. But it's fine. This grows as a weed in my garden, so I'll have lots of cersei coming still. So there are two different ways to do it. Put it in a pot of water. I have a pot of water that I just added there. You can put it in at this point and then just let it come to a boil, and let it boil for like 15 minutes. Or what I've seen some people do on YouTube, but they just take a handful of cersei, put it in a cup, cover it with water, and I just boiled my pot of water here, my kettle. Hold on. Some people just pour it on, cover it with a dish for 10 minutes, and then drink it. So I'm gonna try that, but I'm also gonna take a handful of cersei and put it in this pot. I didn't measure the water, but you can see it's a small enough pot. It may have 4 cups of water in there. So I'm gonna put some cersei in. Okay, so I'm gonna use this much. Gonna add it to the water. The water isn't hot yet. I don't think it makes a difference if you add it hot or cold. And gotta make sure the leaves are submerged. And I'm gonna bring this up to a boil. So after it boils, I'm probably gonna make it boil for 5 minutes and then turn it off and then let it sit for another 10 minutes. One thing to note, if you're trying anything new, definitely do your research, and also use it in a smaller portion. So instead of allowing it to steep for an additional 10 minutes, maybe boil it for 2 minutes and allow it to steep for 5 minutes. That way you try it at a much lower strength. Then the longer you steep it, the stronger it's going to become. As a matter of fact, I think I'm going to steep this for only 5 minutes, because I haven't had cersei in many years, and I want to make sure that I don't have a bad reaction. I'll also let you know after how I feel and how it worked. Another thing that cersei does, which I didn't mention, I'm not sure if I mentioned it, it's used as a detox, not just a blood detox, but it actually cleans you out. So if you have constipation, this is supposed to really help to get things moving. And for that reason, it's a good idea to have it first thing in the morning, which is what I'm doing. I just woke up, I haven't eaten anything, and I usually have my cup of coffee, but I'm gonna have a cup of cersei tea this morning. All right, so this boiled for 5 minutes, and it's been sitting for maybe 5 minutes. So that means this has been sitting for like 10 minutes. So let's do a comparison and see what they look like. So I'm gonna strain this off into this cup. I had to put the camera down, but here's what it looks like. So this is one that we didn't boil. All I did was rest the vines in the cup and pour hot water on it. So you can see it has a pretty rich color, and that's after 10 minutes. Now let's see what it looks like coming from the pot. I'm gonna have to put the phone down again to strain it into this cup. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so this one's a lot lighter, but you know why? there was more water in the pot than in a cup. But you know, you can make it to taste. You can put as much or as little as you want. I do recommend that you start off with it with less, so you can have same amount of cersei, but have more water just to make sure it's more diluted. So I will definitely use this method because I mean it's actually stronger. So let's taste it now. Let's start with the weaker one first. Ooh, well, it is called bitter gourd or bitter melon for a reason. It's very bitter. Oh gosh. Yes, definitely that has to do some that has to be doing something good in my body. It is very bitter. I know my dad used to love to drink this with condensed milk. Since I think I'm gonna do like a 3-day detox, so I don't think I'm gonna use condensed milk right now. I'm just gonna have it black. All right, so next we're gonna talk about how I'm using it in the garden. I'm not just gonna dump this. I'm gonna put this in the compost. This will break down and feed the soil. And also I'm gonna show you how to make compost tea. So not just tea that's good for the body, but tea that's also good for the garden. Let's go. Wait, before I go outside and show you the compost tea, how I make my compost tea, let's check on the cersei. Let's check on the ones that we're drying. So it's on a very low heat. You don't want to put on a high heat. Okay, so that's the sound we want. If you have something to elevate it off the flat thing, you can, but you don't really have to. So let's see. Alright guys, so this is the sound we want. See, it's well dried. Now this can be stored. This can be stored. This can be blended up. You can even put it in like the NutriBullet and blend it up if you want it to look like more like what you see in tea bags. But guys, look at this. This is free cersei tea that you can dry and store. I would put it probably in a paper bag and store it. But I'm going to be making a whole lot more of this. It was in the dehydrator. Oh my gosh, guys, you see? I even held it with my bare hand. So that shows you how low the heat is. It's 150. You don't want to cook it. You just want to dehydrate it. I think it may have been in there 2 hours. And this is completely dry. You can probably check it after an hour and a half. And of course, it depends on how much you actually put in there. Of course, you always make sure you have like a thin layer, as thin a layer as possible. But guys, I have my dried cersei leaves. 100% organic, straight from my garden. I'll be able to use this in the winter, maybe after that Christmas and Thanksgiving feast. If I want to do another cleanse, I can. Even though there won't be any in the garden at that time, I will have the leaves that I can boil into teas. If you're gonna do it this fine, you're gonna have to strain it, or you can put it in one of those little tea pouches and just drop the whole pouch in there, and then when you boil it, you just lift the pouch out, and everything, you know, everything will be in the pouch. It won't be in the tea. So you don't have to worry about swallowing these leaves. Let's show you really quick what I did. I started saving the cersei in jars. So I'm gonna have a couple of these jars that I'm gonna create, and I'm gonna pull some more cersei and probably have some in bags with the vines and everything that I can use later on. But for now, it's easy for me to get to my cersei in the morning when I want it. Yeah, so that's what I have here. And this is what it looks like after I strained out what was left in the pot. I'm gonna refrigerate this and drink this over the next few days. Also, as I mentioned before, be sure never to drink this more than 7 days, but do your own research. Different websites say different things. Some people say they drink it every day growing up, but several say that there can be liver damage if you drink it more than 8 days. So you use your own discretion, do your own research before consuming. You can see it's been 3 days, and look at it, guys. It's already breaking down. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add water. I'm gonna use like half of the cersei. Oh, you can already smell it. It's already breaking down. I'm gonna use half of the cersei in this pot, in this container, and then I'm gonna fill it up with all the way to the top with water. Then what I'm gonna do is let it sit for like maybe a week, at least a week, 2 weeks, even better, and then it will become compost tea. At that point, whenever I'll dilute it half compost tea, half water when I'm watering my plants. Then I'll be able to water all my veggies and my plants directly with the compost tea. So let's get this out. All right, so now I put like half of the cersei in the I filled up the container like halfway with the cersei and the weeds. The good thing is that I'm gonna be using this as a tea, so I don't have to worry about the cersei seeds getting into the bed, because you definitely do not want to get those cersei seeds in your veggie beds. Otherwise, you're gonna have like a million little cersei plants growing up, and once they start growing, it's impossible. So this is gonna be used strictly as a tea. I'm using a bin in this case. You can also use a pail. You can use any container you have. It doesn't have to be this big. It can be small. The important thing is that you make your compost tea and you have free liquid fertilizer from that tea. So I've used in the past I've used like a Home Depot pail. You know that pail that's like $3 at Home Depot or Lowe's that comes with a cover. That's also perfect. I've used a old cooler, which was even more perfect, because with the cooler, check out my seaweed video. You'll see where I made my seaweed compost, and then I was able to just open the little spigot at the bottom and use the compost that way. It was actually the most perfect method. So check that video out. I'll drop a link to that video. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and fill this up and see you in a week. As you can see, the cersei that I had up here is completely gone. It's completely broken down here. But let's check out this compost tea. Woo wee! Look at that. Oh gosh, it stinks. Oh my gosh, I see all manner of creatures in here. So I'm gonna take some of the tea. Off. You definitely don't want your animals drinking this. I think I'm gonna use this. Oh my gosh, it stinks. At a very light strength. Guys, remember, plants don't have noses, thank God. So they won't be smelling this. And I definitely will not use this on my leaves, because I don't want, I don't want to like eat vegetables after it touches this. So I'm gonna just be feeding the soil with this. So I see some mosquito larvae in here, which isn't good. So I'm gonna try and use this up. Not that it's Pinky. Here, chick, 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 chick. Here, chick, 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 chick. Here, chick, 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 chick. And there's stuff there. Give some to this apple tree. Gonna transplant this next week. So right now it's beautiful, absolutely beautiful, and it's gonna be even more beautiful once it gets into the ground and bigger. Give some to my guava tree. My guava actually has guavas on it, so give it a little drink. A nice swamp water drink, because that's what it smells like, swamp water. That's it for now. I'm gonna continue going around, making sure it's diluted 3 times. So I'm gonna put one part of that nasty water, and then 2 parts of my rain barrel. I have a lot of rainwater in my rain barrel, and then I'm gonna water all my trees, all my veggies. I'm gonna water like a few today. I'm probably gonna stop right now, and then observe, make sure they look good. Then I'm gonna go all throughout my garden and give them a nice drink. Alright guys, till next time, I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider subscribing to me, and don't forget to hit that notifier bell so that you can see all my upcoming videos. Till next time, bye now.